Hey, morning everyone. I am really sorry about the confusion this morning with the links. We are still waiting for a few people to join with the different link, but unfortunately Claire had an emergency this morning, and so she forgot to start the Zoom room. And so I had to make a last minute link. Hopefully she'll still be able to join us later. I think let's just give everyone until 10:15 to have a bit of extra time to join, given the confusion. Then I will go ahead with starting the introduction of Edmore, who is our speaker today, and then hand over to him. Okay, so if you want to share greetings in the chat, please go ahead and do so. And again, my apologies for the delay and confusion. Okay, I think in the interests of not wasting too much of our time this morning, let's begin, and hopefully people can join along the way. So many of you know Edmore. You've met him before at the Learning Festival. He did one of the parallel sessions on traditional seed saving approaches. That was sort of in high demand, and unfortunately, due to the limit of 20 people per session, not everyone was able to attend that parallel event, which was why we decided to make an online seminar version of that parallel session. Just to give you a little bit of a background about Edmore, he has a diploma. He has diplomas in agriculture, human resource management, sales, and marketing management. He has a certificate in rainwater harvesting and conservation from Rhodes University and is currently pursuing an honors degree in agricultural management. He has been working with Singisa and TCOE since 2012 as a food sovereignty stream coordinator, focusing on climate resilient alternatives such as seed saving, rainwater harvesting, biofertilizers, and generally agroecology. And he is also a farmer. So a really wide set of experiences and skills that I think all of us can learn a lot from. And it's really always a pleasure to have the opportunity to learn from people within the RACR group. So without further ado, Edmore, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm going to start. Let me know when you want me to start sharing your presentations. I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me maybe, do you need my video, or I can just go with the audio?
I think if you can put your video on for and then we see how the connection is. If it's very bad, then we can
works. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see what is happening now. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see me.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Just as Tara has introduced me, I'm Edmore Parichi, working for TCOE and Singisa. Yeah, I'm quite honored to be speaking to you this morning, fellow farmers, especially on a topic that is very important to me, the topic of seed saving. Those who were there in Cape Town when we were talking about seeds, we said that seeds are very, very important aspects of our livelihoods. And I also ironically made mention that we are also seed. We also come from seed. Every life that is under the sun comes from seed. So why should we be talking about seed saving? Why do we need to talk about seed saving? Just to give a brief context to the topic, I would just go with, you know, in the 1960s, there is what we call the Green Revolution, which came about as a result of hunger and shortage of food. So the industrial agriculture thought this was a solution. This was a solution to try and reduce hunger and make sure that food is produced in abundance. And they came with hybrids and genetically modified seeds. And the same seeds were coming from our own land races, our own seeds, which they had to change scientifically so that they have what they called the so-called super traits or super characteristics. And this is a bearing also on our farm managed seed systems, because such seeds like the GMOs, they've got a tendency of affecting our seeds, of contaminating our seeds, our pure seeds, the farm managed seeds, you know, our indigenous seeds, which can be heirloom, because you can be able to pass them from one generation to the next. And currently there is a high demand for food. Food prices have actually skyrocketed. They've gone up. Those who have managed to visit the shops recently, they can attest to what I'm talking about. The prices of food is uncontrollable, and nobody knows as to why this has become so. And the only reason is that our food systems have been captured by the elite or the large corporates who captured one of the, what we call the commons. Our seeds are part of the commons, because most of our food comes from seeds. And the seeds have been captured by the rich people. And those from the Eastern Cape, they understand what has happened recently as a result of this hunger. Hunger has taken another shape, which was never the case before. You know, in Lusikisiki and Butterworth in the Eastern Cape, we have two women who literally killed their children and also committed suicide just because of hunger. because they can't have access to this food that we're talking about.
Yes.
And there's also an issue of climate change and global warming. You know, due to this climate change, when we plant our seeds, at times you need to plant more than once because of erratic weather conditions. At times it's raining. It can rain for a very short space of time, and then we have early cutoffs whereby you have prolonged droughts. This therefore means that one has to have quite a reasonable amount of seeds so that you can keep planting. You can keep planting. This can only happen when one is saving his own seeds. You can't manage to do this by buying from the cooperatives or whatever, these big shops that stock our seeds.
I need to.
This is one of the reasons that's why I say it's important that we save our own seeds so that we don't depend on the rich few who have decided to patent or to take ownership of our seed systems. What they've done is they've taken our seeds, our indigenous seeds, and then they just changed their genetic combination. Their genetic combination to make it theirs. Now it's their seeds. They also have what we call intellectual property rights, which is a form of ownership. And once you start using this type of seeds, they are so addictive, so to speak, so much so that you can't use any other seeds. You think these are the best seeds. But the disadvantage is that you keep buying every now and then. You keep buying every now and then. And then the same GMOs that we're talking about, the research has shown that such seeds are known for causing a lot of cancerous diseases. We have lots of cancer, you know, you name it, there's cancer of everything these days, cancer of the hair, cancer of eyes, cancer of the stomach, cancer of the intestines, cancer of the uterus, prostate, skin cancer. All these come as a result of these funny foods that are at our disposal. These funny foods at our disposal. So to avert that, or to come out, to get away from dependence on such foods which are not even healthy, which also even destroy our environment, our ecosystems, it's best that we support this type of agriculture known as the agroecology, which promotes seed saving. And once you have seed sovereignty, you have food sovereignty. You can eat what you want. You can eat what you want. You choose to farm the way you want to do and eat what you want. Unlike the industrial agriculture system, which is whereby they don't even care how what you eat is going to react to your body. You have a lot of people with allergies these days. You know, most of the allergies, they come as a result of these foods that we eat, which are not proper, which are not organic, non-organic foods. They come with a lot of health complications. So hence the need for us to save our own seeds. Okay, thank you very much. This was just an introduction to my presentation so that when I'm talking, you know why we should be saving seeds. It's very, very important. It's not an option. You have to save seeds as a farmer. Right? I have the first presentation. Thank you.
Can you see it?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
I'm just gonna.
Thank you very much.
I'm just gonna put it into the slideshow.
Okay.
And then just tell me when to press the next slide.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks so much, Tara. Okay, so this is Indigenous Seed Rescue, Multiplication, Sharing, and Storage. This is one of the seed banks that we have established in one of the villages here in King Williamstown. It's managed by the communities themselves. So what we did was to gather the people, explain to them, raise awareness on the need for seed saving. And as you can see, it's a very simple thing. A seed bank is not something that is very complicated. It's just a roundabout that we constructed, and then we're using these opaque bottles. I'll explain as to the reasons why that color. Next. Right. Yeah, objective of this project of seed saving. Some of them I've just mentioned them, but let me just go through these ones so that we are on the same page. Why we save seeds is because we want to conserve our traditional seeds. If we don't conserve them, they will go extinct. And then future generations will never know some of the seeds that are very important to our livelihoods. You know, food actually identifies, it's a form of identification to us, especially the people of Africa. You know, in area to area, there's what we call staple foods. Staple foods come from these seeds that we're talking about. In some areas, their staple food is sorghum. In some areas, their staple food is maize. In some areas, their staple food is madumbe, etc., you name it. And then we also want to promote climate resilient seeds. You know, the purpose of seed saving is to make sure that we grow seeds which are resilient or which can actually adjust to the change in climate, like our indigenous seeds. The other point is that we want to promote environmental friendly methods of farming, like the agroecology. We do that through our seed saving. And the other thing is that when you save seeds, you become a dignified person within the community. You have dignity, and there's also some humanity. You know, when you save seeds, you don't act like a disorganized person when rains come. When rain comes, you know I've got my seeds already. But people without seeds, when it comes to planting time, they lose their dignity because they have to go all over the community asking for seeds or going to buy with the money that they don't have as well. The other important thing is that we want to ensure food secure country. You can't be food secure if you don't have your own seeds. That's why people end up just taking whatever comes from the Department of Agriculture because they don't have a choice. And those seeds that come, none of them is either OPV or proper seeds, the heirloom seeds. Most of those seeds are actually GMO seeds. And those cannot be termed food secure. Because food security is access to healthy food, which is available all times. So those ones don't come all times. They bring them once in a while. The other point is that we want to promote also food sovereignty. Food sovereignty is the control of the factors of production. You know, where seed saving is it's actually part of having control over what we eat when we can save our own seeds. It's coupled with also other issues like land, you know, water, most of the commons, the things that are used by everybody. You know, seed is one of a common which shouldn't even ever been in the hands of a few. Next. Right. So this is just to give you a glimpse of what we have done to make sure that this seed saving project is a success. What we have done is that we have established a central agroecology training and learning site in Berlin, where we bring farmers and train them on agroecological methods, of which seed saving is one of them. It's not only seed saving. There's seed saving, there's rainwater harvesting, there is also the intercropping, etc., you name it. And use of trained community facilitators. So we run TOTs, training of trainers sessions, whereby The trained community facilitators are the ones that go out and also train others in the communities they come from. And we use these community training and learning sites to promulgate or to extend this agroecology movement. And we also build what we call organic seedling nurseries. The seeds that we save, we sow them in our own nurseries, which we call organic seedling nurseries. And we also make use of traditional household and community seed banks. This seed saving thing, it must start at household level, and then from there it goes to community. We can't start with building community seed banks when people themselves, families themselves, don't have such seed banks. So seed saving starts at household level, and then it goes to the community. Let's go. Yeah, these are some of the threats to seed saving, some of the hindrances to seed saving. We said knowledge of seed saving is threatened by industrial agriculture. You know, the way industrial agriculture is this form of agriculture which doesn't take in consideration the ecology or the environment. So knowledge of seed saving is threatened by that, because most of the agricultural colleges, they teach industrial agriculture system. You know, they are trained on how to use fertilizers, how to use chemicals, how to kill, you know, if I may call it. That's how they are trained. So the same people are the ones that come now being extension workers in our communities. So they try and erase whatever indigenous knowledge that you've got, and then foster or push their agenda of industrial agriculture, which is dangerous. The other point is that seeds lose viability over time. This is one of the threats. Seeds, they don't stay forever. You need to keep them to a certain period, after which you need to dispose them, or you need to either plant them or consume them. The other point is that government policies favor conventional agriculture. You know, there are policies to date, which like the Plant Breeders Act and the Plant Improvement Act, which we are currently interacting with. These policies, they don't allow saving of certain types of seeds. And as a movement, we should fight this, because it's actually robbing the poor, the impoverished, of their right to conserve their own staple foods. There will be some hearings, I'm sure, on the 8th and 9th in Cape Town. 8th and 9th in Cape Town, there will be some consultation meetings by the Department of Agriculture, Land and Rural Development in Cape Town. The details can be shared later on. So we need to take part in these things so that when the rules are being enacted, we are not found wanting. We can also challenge this. And then the other threats to seed saving is that there is contamination of indigenous or traditional seeds by hybrids and GM seeds. One funny thing about genetically modified seeds is that it's them which can contaminate our seeds, while our seeds cannot contaminate theirs, because our seeds are pure. Our seeds are pure, and they are contaminated by, because if you grow your field, if you have a field next to somebody who is farming with GM seeds, your seeds can be contaminated through cross-pollination, you know, and they come GM. So I will explain also as to how can you make sure that your seeds are not contaminated by such. That's why in communities, you need to talk to your neighbors, make sure you know their cropping program and you know what they grow, so that if you want to keep your pure seeds, you should know also when they are going to plant their seeds. Because if they plant their seeds, like you need to make a space of maybe 30 days in between. if they plant like now, then you need to plant yours at least 30 days later, so as to avoid cross-pollination. And then the other threat also to seed saving is climate change and extreme weather conditions. You know, like I've mentioned this in my introductory presentation when I was saying climate change now is a threat to seed saving. You can plant as much as you want, but then you find in the twinkle of an eye, everything is just wiped away by this adverse effects of climate change. Climate change is not only coming through drought, it can also come through floods. Recently, yesterday, I was in Port St. John's. It's quite pathetic and heartbreaking to find people's fields have been washed away, including the crops themselves. So these are the dangers of that threaten our seed saving initiatives. Let's move. Urbanization and modernization. You know, most of our youths, you know, the young generation, they've got a belief, this so-called belief that good life is found in urban areas. So people are leaving the rural areas to urban areas in a bid to seek a better life. So this therefore removes or disturbs the transfer of knowledge from the older generations to the younger generation. So if you ask the younger generation what is tutu, some of them, they don't even know that it's a very important vegetable which you can eat, which is eaten, and it's not actually a form of it's not a sign of poverty to eat such indigenous leaf vegetables. It means you care about yourself. Then there are also government policies that I've talked about this, the PBR and the Plant Breeder and Plant Improvement Acts, which seeks to privatize seeds, to make seeds, because the Monsantos and the Syngentas, they've actually privatized seeds, our heritage. Ownership patterns. Yeah, the people who were supposed to be producing and serving seeds, they've also lost ownership of factors of production, such as land and water. Because how can you serve as much seed as you want if you're only farming on a 20 by 20 at a household level? You can't keep seeds to a larger extent. Your saving of seeds is actually limited in a way. Let's move. Right. Okay, good. Then these are some of the steps that should be followed when somebody is saving seeds. You don't just take seeds and then you plant and then you think I'm doing the seed saving business. There are processes that you need to follow. The first thing is the seed, what we call the seed rescue or recovering of seeds. This is done by, like for example, when you meet in these big gatherings, normally in big gatherings, we advise people to bring seeds for sharing. Mind you, in agroecology, we promote the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of sharing. We share most of the things that we have. So what we would do is we would encourage people to bring their seeds, and then they bring their seeds to those gatherings. And when you get such seeds, you don't just go and plant. Let's say you have managed to get 10 kgs of a certain variety of maize, for example. Because I will talk about maize because it's one of the staple foods of the Eastern Cape. So let's say you've managed to get 10 kgs of maize. When you go to your place, you don't go and plant the whole 10 kg. You run what we call trials, which is the next step. And the trials, by trials, you are trying to check if the seeds are going to do well in your own conditions, because conditions differ from place to place. So when you take them to your place, you run what we call trials. By a trial, let's say you've got 2 varieties of maize. At times, not all of them will do well in your area. So you go and run trials, you go and by trials, you simply plant half of whatever you've gotten from a different place. You plant them, you water them, you irrigate, all the agronomic practices, you do that. And then after harvesting, as they grow these things, you harvest the first crop, and then you compare the harvests from variety A and variety B. And then if you see variety A has done well, if variety A has done well, then you select your variety A. Then the variety B, what you do is you don't throw it away, but you can share with other people because it doesn't do well in your own conditions. You can share with other people to try in their own areas. And then whatever you have selected, now you do what we call demonstrations. By demonstrations, what you are going to do is you are going to replant. You replant the same seeds that you have harvested from the trials. Then by demonstrations, you are trying to check which treatment does this variety want. By treatment, I'm talking of the amount of manure that is needed, the watering regime, or the irrigation, or the amount of water that is needed for the plant to grow optimally up to completion. And all the other management factors. So by doing this, you can have what you call, you can also have two plots. One of the plots of the same sizes. It can be 2 by 1, 2 by 1, 2 meters by 1 meter, 2 meters by 1 meter. Then you plant these seeds. In one of the plots, you put like, let's say 3 wheelbarrows per square meter of manure. And then in the other plot, you put 1 wheelbarrow or 1.5 wheelbarrows of manure per square meter. And then on plot A, you irrigate maybe 3 times a week. Plot B, you irrigate once per week or 2 times per week. Then you compare as the crops grow, you continue. A farmer should be able to do what we call record keeping. You take records of everything from time of germination. How many days did the plant take to germinate? You record. And then time to reach what we call the knee height, or 0.9 meters, you record also. And then time to tasseling, where it's going to remove the tassel, you record. And then you compare when everything is done. You know, pest control is done the same way. You control your pests using maybe the ashes or the other organic pesticides that you can make using your own herbs. And then at the end, when your seeds, when your plots are fully ripe, you check now the yield. The yield will tell you which one was the best treatment which was needed. So these demonstrations will tell you that it's not always the case that when you overwater your plants, they will grow well. Or when you give them a lot of manure, or organic matter, they will do well. It's not always the case. At times, if you put more than what the crop needs, it can also cause what we call diminishing returns, whereby what you expect, you won't get it. You'll get actually the opposite of what you expect. So when you put a lot of fertilizers or a lot of manure, what happens is that some people, they call it burning. The crops will be burnt. So this is actually what happens, because instead of the crops growing well, the manure in the soil will drain water from your plants, thereby restricting their growth. So the best amount of manure or organic matter will be seen at demonstration. And then the next step now after your demonstration is what we call multiplication. By multiplication, you simply want to increase the volume of your seeds. Because I told you, as farmers, we need to have as much seeds at our disposal as possible, because we cannot control climate change. At times you need to grow more than once until you can have a proper crop stand. So by multiplication, you are not going to use seeds from both the trials and the demonstration phase, but you go back to the seed. But I told you that from the onset, you use half of whatever you have acquired from somewhere. And then that half which had remained is the one that you are going to use to multiply your seeds. So you are going to plant now liberally that remaining. The reason why we should not use the trials and demonstration seeds is because it was grown in close proximity with a different variety. So there could be chances of cross-pollination. It won't be a pure breed. So we want to maintain purity in our seeds. So by multiplication, you simply grow the seeds in your field. You grow the seeds in your field. And then when you do that, as the seeds grow, as the plants grow, you do what we call selection and breeding. By selection, you are simply choosing those plants that are showing vigor, that are showing strength, that are showing good qualities. How do you select them? You simply mark. Let's say it's in a plot, you simply mark, you put maybe, you can put even masking tape on that plant or anything, any way you can do to show that this is what I'm selecting for my seed. Mind you, we are trying to build our seed, a pure breed. And then you once you mark those ones, then you keep just watering, you do everything, you weed, you control pests, etc. And then once the plants have reached their physiological maturity, that is when they are dry enough, we can harvest now. You harvest your plant, let's say maize, because I was saying I'm going to take an example of maize. Then with maize, you simply remove the cobs. This is part of the cobs that you remove from the plant. Some people, what they do is they remove the cob and the husks, but it's advisable to just remove just the cob itself. And then what you do is you further dry. When it's dry in the field, it looks dry in the field, it's not fully dry. You need to further dry it, maybe at a platform. You can use some sail or some hard concrete pavement to further dry your plants. But you need to make sure that you protect your seeds from, these so from rats and mice and also birds. That's how you dry it. And then after dry it, you shell. You remove what you call these seeds. You remove the seeds on your cob, and then you can clean them. And then there are also some machines that are used for shelling. Some are hand operated, some are powered. They use electricity. But as small-scale producers, I would encourage the hand operated one, because it doesn't have any costs. So you can shell your seeds. Once you have shelled them, then we do what we call standardizing. By standardizing, what you are trying to do is you are sorting your seeds according to, 1, the shape of the seed, 2, the color of the seeds, 3, the shape, the color, and also the damage caused on the seed. So those of the same shape, you group them together, the seeds. So it needs people with passion, this business of seed saving. It needs people with passion because it takes a good eye to see the differences in seed colors. Because as the seeds grow, they'll be, you know, most of our maize, like the indigenous maize, they are open pollinated, which means pollination can happen through wind, through birds, you know. So when you are sorting, you need to check your seeds for such things as disease. You also need to check at mechanical damage. You also need to check according to the shape of the seed and also according to the color of the seed. Like those who have bought seeds, they know that most of the seeds are uniform. It has to be of the same color and etc. I've seen people are writing some questions. I would suggest Tara to keep those questions so that we can discuss at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. You can keep the questions coming. And then on storage, what do you do after you've done the sorting of your seeds according to the factors that I've given you? Then you store the seeds in different containers. I'll show the containers as we go. And then after putting in containers, you put your seeds in what we call the seed bank. A seed bank is simply a house where seeds are stored. And then that's where your distribution happens now. If you want to give, or if you want to sell, if you want to share with other farmers, you can do that at distribution stage. Let's go. Right. This is to explain what I was talking about, that seed rescue. You need to research or establish networks with individuals that are still in possession of indigenous seeds. You need to find out who still has what type of seeds. We call that process a seed audit. You must collect seeds from well-reputable partners and individuals, because people are very cunning these days. They will tell you this is indigenous seed, and yet it's just GMO, in a way to just destroy your seed bank. They can do that, especially the agents from Monsanto. They can do that. They can tell you this is good seed, this is what. Never buy seeds that you see whose identity is not known. Use of public gatherings whereby people can engage on the origin of seeds and varieties, etc. When you take seeds, make sure you understand the variety of that seed and the agronomic factors, or how do you look after, how do you tender, how do you grow that type of seed. Next. Right. The trials is what I've talked about. This is what I was explaining. The trials is simply about experimenting with the seeds that you have rescued. Mind you that you have sometimes collected your seed from an area with different climatic conditions. So what I was saying is that this is exactly, I'm just trying to go over what I said in the previous, that you choose distance of 50 meters away from other farmers to avoid cross-pollination. But this is not very feasible because we don't have the liberty of access to land to be able to move 50 meters away from another farmer. At times, we are just separated by a fence between my farm and the next farm, because access to land is quite a serious problem. So what happens is that you can differentiate your seeds or your varieties by time. You plant a month before or a month after your neighbor who is planting GMOs has planted. I've said that you need to observe, you need to be observant during the growth of those seeds. You need to check what are the qualities of whatever you are looking at. The qualities that are very important on seeds is that you need to, days to maturity is very, very important, or time taken to reach a certain stage. It's also very, very important. Next. Right. Like I've said again, that demonstration precedes trials. In demonstration, you harvest the seeds that did well in the trials. You plant them during demonstration. This stage is to experiment the quantity of organic fertilizers needed for each variety, including irrigation. I've explained that we want to check which amounts of organic fertilizers are needed for this plant to grow well, and how much water is needed for this plant also to do well. So you vary the quantities from plot A to plot B so that you can compare which ones did well. On this stage, you also keep a record, keep recording. The one of the problems or challenges of our small scale producers is that they barely record, which is actually a problem, because when you record, you are actually empowering yourself. You can use the records to plan for the future. Because if you keep records, in the next season, you will know what did I do wrong, what did I do best, and then you keep the good practices and also throw away the bad practices. Next. Right. In the multiplication, that's I was saying in the multiplication stage, you multiply those seeds, the original seeds that you had left before you started the trials and the demonstration. You can keep separate your plants at 50 meters from each other, your fields 50 meters from each other, and then you can also separate your seeds by time, before or after some farmers have planted. You continue using these principles and the practices of agroecology or organic farming and the necessary soil preparation. So active participation of family members in the seed project is very, very important. We encourage families to do this together. It's not, farming is not only for the mothers or the old men, but should be for the whole family. The whole family must know how seed saving is done. They must know how seed saving is done, so that there is sustainability. Once you are gone, or once you are unable now to work in the field, the family does not become destitute. Most families, they've become destitute because farming has been taken as a business for the elderly, which is a very wrong perception. Next.
So, Edmore, this is the end of your first yes. presentation. I'm just having a look at time. So I think we scheduled the seminar until 11:30. So you still have the two other presentations. It would be nice to have some time for discussion. I don't know if you want to go through the two presentations quickly, and we can try finish them in like 15 minutes. Then we can have.
Okay. I think I need to increase my speed. Yeah. I just need to increase my speed.
Yeah, I will just share. So I'm now going to share the second one.
Okay.
It's on selection.
Okay. Right. Right. It's on selection. You know, when you're multiplying your seeds, you do what we call the selection. I've partly explained this, that you choose the best plants during the multiplication for seed harvesting, where you are going to harvest your seeds. you focus on the middle area of as a useful area. I'm not sure if you're able to see this. This is the field. The first square is the perimeter of your field. And then the second square is the area where you are going to concentrate on selection of your seeds. You avoid those seeds which are at the periphery, at the boundaries. The reason being that those are exposed to pests and diseases. That's why we don't choose seeds which are actually at the outside. Let's move. Right, harvesting. In the case of maize, harvesting is done when whole plant is dry. We all know about this. This is not a new thing. Avoid harvesting during rain season or during rainy days, because you actually encourage rot of your plants. The cob of the maize droops and faces down, which is when it's ripe. The cob, it droops, it faces down. It's actually an adaptation strategy by the plant to avoid water getting into the cob. So it droops, it faces this side when it's ripe, but when it's still growing, to be facing up like this on the plant. So the silk also turns black. The silk ubulembu, it turns black in color. Harvest when physiological maturity is reached. Harvest seeds in focal areas, in the middle areas only. Use appropriate harvesting method depending on the crop. Some crops, they can be easily harvested by hand, and while others, they can easily be harvested by the combine harvesters or some form of machinery. But combine, it's quite a huge, it's very expensive. It's very expensive, and it's not easy to reach to that. So we normally encourage our farmers to use whatever is at their disposal, as long as it's not going to affect your seed quality. Next. Right, drying. De-husking of the cobs. De-husking is simply the removal of the husks. Those things that cover your maize, the maize cob, you remove those. Drying on seeds in the sun and return them before sunset. Normally you put them in the morning, take them out, and then put them in. This is done to avoid dew. Umbete. You avoid dew so that because once your seed has got dew, then it can rot easily. Put seeds on a dry, clean, and pest-free place on a white cloth. Some can use a white cloth. So in other areas, they also use what we call idwala. Idwala is simply a rock, a flat rock, a big one, where you can put your seeds there during the day, and then later you take them in the house. Different seeds are stored at different moisture content. Moisture contents are different. Maize is best stored at 12.5% moisture content. But this can be, you can also buy what we call a moisture tester. But in indigenous knowledge, with indigenous knowledge, some old women and men are able to test whether the seed is ready or not, just by using their techniques, by winnowing. When they are winnowing their seeds, they can tell from the pitch that comes from the seed that it's dry enough to be stored. Because if you store your seeds when they are not dry enough, they will spoil so early. Guard against infiltration of rats and other pests to your seeds during drying. So what other families do to avoid rats and other rodents, they simply keep cats. Although I know in the Eastern Cape, cats is a serious issue. Cats, they are labeled witches in some circles, but no, they actually not. They actually not. They are very helpful in terms of yeah. So dry your seeds after the morning. the morning dew and before sunset. You don't take them early in the morning. You will take them as like what people do when they take out their goats to avoid your animals eating grass with dew. So dew is not very good for your seeds. It spoils your seeds. And then you take them in before sunset. Next. For cucumber beets are those crops in the family of cucumbers, you know, the watermelons, the pumpkins. Dryness may be checked by trying to break the seed with 2 hands. You put your seed here in your hands, and then you try to break it. If it breaks, then it is dry and ready for storage. But if it can not break, which means it still needs further drying. For maize, one may try and break the seed by teeth. If you want to check for dryness, you just put it in the middle of your teeth. You put it on your teeth. If the seed breaks at once, then it is dry. You see this one, it has broken. It means it's very, very dry. Then if it's not dry, then your teeth will bite into the seed without it breaking. Some people, mostly women, are able to use the pitch when winnowing seeds to check dryness. I've explained about this. Let's go. Sorting, okay. Sorting starts during shelling of maize, or e.g. maize. By sorting, yeah, it's simply a form of standardizing. You want to check so that you have uniformity in your seeds. For maize seed, one has to shell those in the middle of the cob. You see this cob here? We don't take seeds from the top here. Neither do you take seeds from the bottom here, because they are not very viable when you are shelling seeds for storage purposes. You know, seeds at the topmost part here, they are not very viable. They have not grown fully. So they are not, most likely not to germinate. So you only shell those in the middle of the cob. Seeds in the middle are strong and have high chances of germination. So when you are sorting your seeds, you sort your seeds according to size, according to the color, according to the shape, and according also to mechanical damage. So those that are very much damaged, you put them on their own. Those with the same shape on their own, same color on their own, same size on their own. That's what we call sorting. Next. Right. The last one, I think we'll manage to. Right. Then once you have sorted your seeds, you have put them in your containers and everything, you need to take them to the seed bank. You heard me talking about the seed bank. A seed bank has got its own characteristics. A seed bank should have the following features. It must have proper ventilation. There must be free air movement in the seed bank, and should not allow easy access of pests and rodents. You know, pests. It should not allow birds to get in a seed bank. Even birds should not get in. That's why I was saying in other places, they keep cats to keep away such. A seed bank should not allow much light inside, as this will promote the process of germination. Seeds don't love light. You don't expose your seeds to light. So make sure your seed bank is a bit dark. If it has got windows, you need to put dark curtains to make sure that it's always dark throughout the life of the seeds. Next. Right. This is one of the seed bank. It's a very simple seed bank. This is what we constructed in one of the villages here in the King Williamstown. This is a seed bank. It's a roof thatched by it's actually thatched by grass so that it becomes cool. Next. Right. The house should be cool. This could be achieved by either using grass thatch or making sure that there is a ceiling to control heat. You must make sure there's a ceiling. You use, when you're constructing a seed bank, use natural available resources. Don't cost yourself for nothing. You can also use any type of structure, but adhere to the principle. It can be a rendezvous, it can be a flat, it can be a 6-corner, etc. The seed banks should be protected from harsh winds. Trees may be planted around the house. Make sure it's next to trees so that it's protection. There are some windbreaks. Next. Right. Storage facilities. Where do we store your seeds? There are different containers or forms of containers one can use. Use dark containers for storage. This is done to make sure that light does not penetrate through to your seeds. Containers should be thoroughly cleaned and dried before storage happens. You clean your container thoroughly before you store the seeds. Fill the container with seeds and wood and ash to avoid pests and diseases. You mix the seeds with wood ash, and people can also use cow dung ash. Amalongwe. You can burn cow dung, and then the ash that comes, you mix with your seeds. You can also mix the seeds with orange peels, orange or lemon peels, but those peels must be very dry. And then you crush them into small pieces, you put in your bottle, and then you seal. Use foil or candle and lid to ensure the container is airtight. Seeds of sweet corn, leek onion, parsnip, and spinach, etc. should, in general, not be kept for longer than 1 season. You know, these ones, they don't keep for longer periods, which means you store them just for 1 season and then you replant them. Otherwise, they lose their viability. Beans, carrots, celery, eggplant, parsley, pumpkin, etc. can last up to 3 years in the seed bank. Beets, all brassicas are crops in the family of cabbage, you know, broccoli, cucumber, etc. Not cucumber. Kale, lettuce, melons, mustard, peppers, radish can last up to 5 years. Next. Right. Storage facilities. These are some of the storage facilities one can use. The previous one. The previous one, Tara? No. Before this? Yes. You can use, some people, like in the Limpopo, they use clay pots in Ngai. They use those ones to store their seeds because they are quite cool, and then they cover the top. They cover the top with a plate, just a metal plate, and then on top, they use cow dung, fresh cow dung to cover the pot. And then we can also use glass jars, translucent, dark bottles, paper envelopes, Asian bags, gourds, amaselwa, or a granary. Next. Right, these are some of the storage facilities one can use. These are not bought, you can simply grow them, you plant them. They are the squash family. Next. Amaselwa. This is the same thing, iselwa. You can use this. This one can also be used for storing your milk. Some they use it for storing beer, keeping beer or water. It can cool. It should be like it's from the fridge, but it also stores seed quite well. Next. Right, this is the clay pot that I was talking about in Ngai. It's also very good, but it needs people who are quite careful because it can break. It's quite brittle. It can break anytime. Next. Yeah, some of the envelopes, the color is very, very important. You use khaki. We don't use white because white allows light in. So this one is a bit, it makes your seeds. If you're keeping slower quantities of seeds, you can use khaki envelopes. Next. Right. You can also use these bottles. I'm not advertising beer or any alcohol. It's a disclaimer. But what you do is we're trying to show that you can recycle these bottles. So it's not something you need to go and buy. You just go next to bottle stores, you collect these bottles, you remove the labeling. You remove all those labelings, the flying fish, the whatever, and then you put your own label of the seed which is in there. Next. Make sure you clean it well before you store your seeds. Some can use bags, Asian bags, to store their seed, but make sure you also put some additives like the chilies, the wood ash in the seed so that it's not affected by the weevils in Ogokwani. Next. Right. So this is basically what happens in seed saving. It's quite a process. It's quite a process, and you need to go through it with your family to make sure that everybody knows what happens at what stage. Over to questions and comments.
Yeah, so there are a few questions in the chat. Maybe we can start with that, and then we can also, if anyone from the audience wants to put up their hand and ask questions, then we can also go to that. But I think we have two questions from Sawonga. Sawonga, do you want to? I'll read them out. But if you want to come in as well, Sawonga, you feel free to unmute yourself. The questions were that the first one was on drying, and the question is, the drying part, does it also apply to other seeds, or is it specifically for maize, or maybe pumpkin seeds? And then, so I think that's a question around,
okay,
is the drying methodology the same for all the different seeds, or is it?
So,
yeah.
Okay, let me just try and answer this one. Basically, all types of seeds need to be dried before you plant. They need to be dried before you plant them, because once they are moist, you cannot store them. That's the problem. Seeds don't store with moisture, with a lot of moisture in them. They need moisture, of course, but not much moisture. So you need to make sure you dry them. But it depends also on the way you dry them. It also depends on the type of seed that you're going to dry. If it's tomatoes, normally with tomatoes, we put them on a sheet of paper like this. You can just take an old tomato and then you spread it here, your seeds. But you also need to expose it to the sun before you can store it. So all seeds, they need to be dried to proper moisture content before storage. This enables them to have a proper shelf life.
Okay, and then the second question from Sawonga is whether there's any visual method that you can use to observe or see if the seeds are germinating.
Okay, to see if the seeds are safe, are still viable. Is that so?
I think he's.
Let me try to explain this. There are processes that you can do also to run what we call viability tests. You know, when you've got your seeds in a seed bank, you keep them maybe after okay, I've seen a hand, you'll come. When you keep them after some period, every three years, you need to check for what we call viability test, whereby you can take just sample 10 seeds in the seed bank of a certain variety. Those 10 seeds, you put them in a moist cotton wool. You can use what you call a cotton wool. You moisten it, and then you keep it in a container. And then, or you can put it in a petri dish, just a small plate. You put some moisture. And then after 7 days, normally, like for maize, it's called maize starts germinating between 5 to 7 days. They will start germinating. Then you count how many seeds have germinated out of the 10. If 5 have germinated, then your germination percent is 50%, because it's 5 over 10 times 100. Then, which means that your your viability is getting low. So what happens is that you need to continue. You need to start planting all these seeds before they lose their viability.
I think, Sawonga, I don't know if you want to come in and clarify if your questions were answered.
Let him clarify, yeah.
Sawonga, I see you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes. They actually from the I asked Eddie just now about the visual method. I wanted to know if there's a visual method that you can use when you want to know or to see if the seed are genetically modified or not. But I'm also grateful that he also mentioned something to do with the cotton if you want to know or want to.
Okay. All right, I get his question. Can you tell if the seed is GMO or not? The answer is no. You can't tell, because a GMO is actually an imitation of the original seed. So imitations by visual looking, you can't tell. You can only tell through testing. You know, if you deal with this, there's some organizations that do food testing, that like the Food Lab and other organizations, but you can't really tell. That's why most of our producers, they are being cheated by these scams of people who sell seeds, pretending that they are OPVs, open pollinated varieties, pretending that they are the proper organic seeds when they are not, because you can't tell by mere looking. You can only tell when they are now growing in the field, but by then it will be too late. That's why I was saying that one needs to source seed from reputable suppliers. Yeah, there's so another question. Another question is saying, can I use any container? We must avoid plastic containers. Plastic containers are strongly discouraged. I've often seen people storing their seeds in those 2-liter Coke, containers. It's bad, because those ones, they've got they develop some humidity, some moisture inside it. So you need at least bottle and any other container which does not allow moisture in. It's allowed to do that. Avoid just plastic.
I think there was some other questions also on the storing. So that Nomboniso asked around how to store. I guess the question is how to store this. The question is how to store these storages, but I think what she means is if you've put stuff into a bottle, how do you store that?
Okay.
And also there's a question. Sorry, there's also an additional question to that, which is whether there's any order in which you should be storing the seeds.
Okay. Let's say you've done your standardization, you have sorted your seeds according to the shape, the color, and the size, and you are quite satisfied that this is the seed that I want to use. When you are putting these seeds now in the bottle, depending on the quantities, you can't put seeds in a drum and yet they're only 1 kg. So you need to use smaller containers depending on the quantities. So when you do that, what I would normally advise is that you put a bit of wood ash in a bottle. Let's say this was your bottle. You put wood ash maybe just to cover the base, and then you put your seeds, the dry seeds. Some people can use funnels. You can make your own paper funnel so that your seeds won't scatter all over. You put them in you don't fill up the whole bottle with seed. You just fill up to where the neck ends, the neck of the bottle. You fill with your seeds, and then the rest of the portion, you put what we call the wood ash. The purpose of the wood ash is to exclude air, to remove air. We don't need a lot of oxygen within the seeds, because once there is oxygen, there is what we call, it's also a requirement for germination. They will start germination. They'll think it's time for germination. So we are reducing the amount of oxygen through that. And the wood ash also, what it does is that it makes sure that the eggs for the weevils in Ngokokwani do not hatch. You know, weevils, they come with they put their eggs while the maize is still in the field. That's why you find when you store seeds, after a short space of time, you find there are those black things, black hohos, which are destroying your seeds. So you can use a funnel or you can make your own funnel. Some people can simply use their own hands as a funnel, and then they throw their seeds inside the bottle.
And I guess maybe, I'm not sure if that answers Nombodiso and Zawonga your questions. Do you want to clarify if they did? Because I think the question was also around whether is there an order, I guess, in the seed bank, do you store the different seeds in any order, or does it not matter?
Yes.
Thank you, Tara.
Right.
Yes, my question was based on that.
Okay.
It was an order. Yes, in a seed bank. Yes, is there any order that you can follow when you want to when you store them? Thank you.
Yeah, in the seed bank, there is an order. You know, there is what we call FIFO. FIFO. First in, first out. You know, the old seeds must be put at in their own space, in their order, in the order in which they have been stored in there. So when you are using the seeds now, you first use those ones which have been in the seed bank for long. You don't start with the new one which you just put in last week. Otherwise, you are now risking, you know, losing viability of those that has been in the seed bank for quite a long time.
Thanks. I have some questions which I might ask if in the last few minutes, if no one else has any more questions that they want to. I was wondering that you recommended using the bottles, the glass bottles, old beer bottles, and
wine, yeah.
Wine, yeah. So they first, I assume you must dry them out properly, right? So that there's no moisture in them.
Definitely.
And then should they be open? Should they be left open, or do you cover them? How do you cover them? Because sometimes the caps might not be there. Or
okay, yeah. Okay, thanks very much, Tara, for that question. You know, when we are using the bottles, many a time they don't come with their tops in because they throw them away, you know, those guys that are drinking. And what we do is we normally use the cobs, you know, this, when you remove the seeds here, what remains, we use it for covering the top of your bottle. So to avoid now moisture getting in the bottle, what we do is we use candles. As the candle is burning, we use that melted wax around this cob here, which is covering your bottle, to make sure that it's airtight. So we simply use the cobs to haven't done anything. And when you are using the seeds again from the bottle, you don't use half and then leave half. When you start opening, you must use everything at once. That's why the seeds must be kept in different sizes of containers. If you've got a small space, you choose those ones in a small bottle. Once you have opened it, then you must plant. You can't open and then come back again. Otherwise, the viability will be affected.
Thanks for that. I just have one last question, which is that you maybe can show again, because I'm not sure if everyone could see your camera when you were doing the presentation. You had that diagram with the selection from where you
Okay.
should be selecting. Maybe you can show that again and just explain.
Maybe let me try to show. I don't know if you see this now.
Yes, you can see it now.
This is the field. I was saying this is, let's say this is your field. And then when you are selecting during multiplication, you select those plants with proper growth and vigor. And you should avoid those plants which are at the end, at the borders. The outer triangle, the outer square there marks your borders. And then the inner square is where you must concentrate when you are selecting the seeds that you are going to be harvesting for seed. It's not that those plants which are at the boundaries are not good. You can still eat them, you can feed your livestock, but you shouldn't keep them as seed.
Okay, great. I think that's clarifies that. If there aren't any more questions from the group, I think this has been a really amazing session. And I'm really sorry about the chaos at the beginning, but I think we managed to make it work. So yeah, everyone feel free to put your camera on, and let's just try and show our appreciation to Edmore for taking so much time to give us such a great presentation. And yeah, we really appreciate the time that you've taken. I definitely am going to be using some of these techniques in my garden to save some seeds. Yeah, so everyone, if you can turn on your videos, and then we can also take a photograph and just yeah, say goodbye and say thank you. Feel free to unmute yourselves as well and just shout out your thanks.
Maybe I can.
Yes, yeah, Claire, go ahead.
Thanks so much, everyone. I've been here quietly. Yes, sorry about the delay and the challenge that we had, but I think it was an excellent session. And also just to say that the session will be on YouTube and it will be viewed many times over by all the people that couldn't be here. We also have people taking the recordings into their communities. So the ripple effect of this information will not stay in this group. It's going to go out into the communities. So very grateful for your time. Thank you so much, Edmore.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Claire.
Yeah, so let's quickly just take a photograph. So everybody, please smile. Oh, wait, hold on. I need to take it again because this didn't work. Okay. Great. Oh, I see Convoladi's with us. Hold on. I'm trying to get everyone in, but okay. Great. Thank you, everyone. And I hope that everyone has enjoyed the session. And again, thank you so much, Edmore. And see you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, Mama. Nisekhona.
Yebo.
No,
Bye,
right. Nindibulisele apho.
Bye.
Bye-bye.